This morning we had the Donkey Kong Bonanza Direct, and I had some expectations going into it that were, to be honest, kind of set by the Mario Kart World Direct, which we'll get back to here in a second. But Nintendo spent about 17 minutes actually showcasing Donkey Kong Bonanza, and coming out of it now, I gotta say, it was pretty good. Like, to the point where I am looking at this now as potentially, maybe up there as a Game of the Year nominee. We gotta see it when it comes out, clearly. But right now, what they're showing, I mean, the game just looks awesome. And I was starting to put this together for Newswave, and I realized, wow, there is a lot of stuff here that I wanted to go over. So that's what we're going to do here today. Guys, if you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're new, and of course, let me know down in the comments how you feel about Donkey Kong Bonanza now less than a month away, especially after this Direct. So to start, I mentioned Mario Kart World, and specifically that Direct. So with Mario Kart World being an $80 game, and Nintendo specifically pointing out that they were going to have a prolonged look at its own dedicated Direct, a lot of us went into the expectations that there's something here we don't know, and it probably ties into that free roam mode. Oh, maybe there is an entire single-player story that's going to wow us, and we're going to spend a bunch of time there, as well as in the multiplayer. But we went into that Direct, and then came out of it going, okay, a lot of the stuff here we already knew. And there may be a few things we didn't, but it wasn't that big aha moment, that wow moment. It just didn't happen. And with these Directs, you really look at it, and when you really see what it's trying to do, it's a commercial. Sure, it's trying to sell you on a product. But if they can impress you and get you excited for the product and go, okay, now I really want to play that game. I get it. I see the vision here. You start to kind of lose touch with the idea of it being commercial and just being excited about the game itself. I just don't think Mario Kart World's Direct did that. So naturally, coming off of that, going into this, expectations were lowered from it. Now, on the next Direct, my expectations have gone up because this was a really good Direct for a game that's coming up here in less than a month. So I was already buying Donkey Kong Bonanza. Now, I'm not only buying it, I'm very excited to play the game. But there are still some questions, and maybe that's also part of it, because, so, to start, they did show that Pauline is in the game, all right? And this was kind of accidentally leaked out, I believe, by one of Nintendo's regional branches on social media at one point. They had to, like, delete the message they posted on social media. It was a whole thing. But Pauline is not only in the game, but she's an integral part of it. She's kind of like DK's partner going through the game, right? She has some abilities that tie into the entire thing, which we'll get to here in a moment. However, this has caused a lot of questions online as to how Pauline exists in this game at all. Mostly because Cranky Kong is in the game, and then he mentions previous events with Mario, it was really like Jumpman back then in the arcades, where he was battling DK, who had an older Pauline. So you kind of see the dilemma here. It's like, okay, this Pauline is young, and this seems to take place after an older Pauline and DK and Mario were combined in a game. So it's very strange, although Pauline did come out of a rock. So who knows? Maybe Nintendo pulls the time travel card or multiverse or multi-dimensional card. It's always possible. There's a get out of jail free card in there somewhere, I'm sure, for this situation. But there is at least some sense of mystery there with how exactly this would even line up or make sense. Maybe Nintendo doesn't care because whatever, it's a timeline. We just thought this would be fun to have. You guys can figure it out for yourself. Maybe that's the case here. Anyway, the idea is Pauline wants to go back to the surface of this planet, and her and DK need to go all the way down to the core of the planet, and apparently then that will transfer them to the surface. So that's what they're on, at least their journey right now is to go further and further in. What's interesting, though, is each world, as they get further in, looks more and more like almost a surface world. You feel like it would just be lava constantly as you got further in. But no, some of these look downright tropical a few levels in from what they were showing, to where you're like surfing around on waterfall and stuff. So I mean, we'll see, I guess, as we get more and more about this game, specifically when it releases in less than a month, and see how maybe the order of the different worlds kind of combines there, and maybe it does actually make sense as you get further and further in, closer to the core of this world. Now, the thing with this is, there's been discussion around the idea that this is the 3D Mario team partially. So part of the Mario Odyssey team is working on this. You look at it and you're like, yeah, It makes sense. You can see it here. But part of that made Mario Odyssey awesome to me is like the control that you had, the feeling of movement. It was a very fun game to play because you did feel like you had control constantly. You could do all kinds of cool stuff. So they opted for 60 frames here like they did then, but they've also tacked on, of course, the destruction element, which is so that the demos that press and then people at these different events had access to, very, very limited. And it seemed like that was something they wanted feedback on specifically, that being Nintendo, the destruction elements. What do you do when you're presented with an entire cliffside? Do you start ripping chunks out of it? Do you start punching through it? Do you go around it? Do you go like underground? I think that's more or less why the demo was presented in such a limited fashion, just to see how people react and what they do with that core mechanic for the game. Because there was word that Koizumi was paying like serious attention, looking over people's shoulders from a distance, trying to see what exactly they were doing in the game. So when I look at this, and as they're moving the camera around and they're running around and climbing, it looked very fluid. It looked like they were willing to make, I don't say some concessions, but make it so it wasn't as strict going around corners. Maybe if you jump and you don't quite grab on in the right spot, it kind of still gives it to you, so you can get around easily and not feel like you're getting stuck constantly on different rocks or anything like that. And of course, Donkey Kong can just punch through stuff constantly. And I will say that looks very, very satisfying to be able to do that and to kind of be able to solve problems your own way, whether it's legitimately just punching straight through it or maybe finding other avenues, climbing over or going under or around, or at one point he just ripped out the ground itself and threw it at something and it just exploded a hole through it. So it looks like in that sense, the world is just so interactive, and because of that, feels very alive. Even when Donkey Kong was rolling through the world, you could see kind of the ground underneath of him, which it was like a walkway, was just being destroyed. It was being ripped up and thrown all over the place. Stuff like that, I think, goes a long way. Even though there's no real mechanical, or there's no real tangible advantage from the ground ripping up underneath of you, that walkway, it still just makes you feel very immersed in that world, right? With all this stuff just kind of being destroyed around you. Now, Pauline, as I mentioned, is along for the ride here with DK, and it does seem like her singing is going to play a big part here as it opens paths. They showed that, and she also transforms DK, and this was interesting because at one point, Donkey Kong becomes like a big Super Saiyan version of himself, and I guess that means he can punch through walls that were just like impossible to break before that. And then you can also turn into a zebra that can run really fast and an ostrich that can glide, and they showed throwing all of this together because you can transform on the fly as long as you have enough power in your meter to do it. I think there's probably other transformations, by the way, that they haven't shown us, and I like that because while it's good to get a really good look at this game, there are parts of it where you get in the spoiler territory and it's like, that would have been fun to experience for the first time. So I think there are some here that we don't know about yet. And even if it's like a one-off transformation for a specific part of the story, I think it'd be really awesome. All right. So when you go through, of course, you get collectibles. This is a kind of a collectathon game, obviously, with 3D platformer with DK. You get Bandanium gems, so they're just gems that have like bananas on them. They can be found in different worlds, and when they popped open the menu, there's a whole skill tree. So as I mentioned, this Direct really showed a lot for this game that maybe we weren't even expecting. I mean, a whole skill tree in this game is really cool to just be rewarded for seeking the stuff out. Even maybe 100%ing worlds before you go to the next one might give you distinct advantages. So even with that, where you can increase, say, some of your different moves or just get new ones, they showed DK kind of like gliding across this water with a rock, like surfing. So that I could see getting you not only places faster, but maybe spots you couldn't get to before as you could surf across, then maybe jump off of it to a higher spot. And they also have fossils. They let you buy gear, outfits, and these outfits have passive effects. So not only do you have this skill tree that gives you new moves and better abilities, but then you also have things like they showed this one outfit that allowed you to just swim faster. So it does seem like you'll have situations where maybe you want to change your gear to accommodate something you're trying to do, whether it's a puzzle or maybe a battle you're trying to win. And then from there, we get the DK wrap. It is in. So again, a fun callback there. It was cool to see that because overall, I just think the game looks super creative. I mean, the visuals they look great. They look creative. It's a very sharp looking game, leaning into that higher resolution that the Switch 2 can do versus the Switch 1. Doesn't look like the Vaseline effect on a game like this, and that is nice and refreshing, really, to see from Nintendo after spending 8 years with the Switch 1. And this game in particular is, I think, something that's really showcasing that personality Nintendo can put into these games. So even something as basic as fast traveling, right? So we see this, and it's like, okay, you want to fast travel between any of these different areas. It's not just hit a button and you just jump to it. It's like, oh, hold on. An eel has to come up, eat you, and then spit you out at the next place, and it's called teleporting. That's just kind of the way it is with this game. There is local co-op, so the idea is a person will play as Donkey Kong and the other person will play as Pauline, and she sings words that then fire off and hit enemies, and use the mouse control. So here we go. Okay, a game that is taking advantage of some of the unique effects from the Switch 2 with this control scheme, and it supports game share. That's locally or through game chat, and because it has local game share, you can use a Switch 1. Now, I still need to see the quality of this because I haven't had great experiences with Switch 2 to Switch 1, but if you can get it to work well, it's, again, a nice way to have somebody who has Switch 1, or maybe you still have kept yours and someone else in the house can use it while you're playing on your Switch 2. It's just a fun way to add on another person without having to go out and buy another Switch 2 and then another copy of the game. Now, they did show DK Artist, so you can carve stone and then you can paint it. Good luck to Nintendo for what the internet is probably going to do with that mode. There's also new amiibos. Of course, Nintendo wants to sell more stuff there, so sure. It's of DK and Pauline, and they showed some of the effects of the other amiibos that are out there that you may have. Game's coming out July 17th. I mean, I'm on board. I was already going to buy this game because, I mean, it's the next big Switch 2 game from Nintendo. It's first party. It seems to be showing off what the Switch 2 can do. Nintendo themselves have said the Switch 1 just can't run this game. And looking at it more and more as they showcased it, not only with the visuals, the frame rate, but just how, again, alive the world is, how interactive it is, and how destructible it is. Yeah, I believe them on all of that. All right, so yeah, I'm excited for it. Picking it up day one, and I do think, I don't know if this is going to be a Mario Odyssey for Nintendo for the first year, because that was a crazy time for them. 2017, they had 2 games that came out that year for the Switch 1 that were Game of the Year nominees, and one of them won it, right? So Breath of the Wild won Game of the Year in 2017. Mario Odyssey was nominated as well, and it was a fantastic game. And I'm seeing a lot of that stuff in Donkey Kong Bonanza right now, again, after seeing a prolonged look here at different mechanics and elements of it with this Direct. Nintendo, I think they got something here. And again, I'm very excited to check it out. So this Direct was good enough to create that illusion for me that it wasn't just a straight-up commercial necessarily. It looks fun, and I'm excited to jump into it on July 17th when I pick it up, actually physically as well. Also, a nice part of that is, yes, it's not going to be a game key card. I will get the game physically on a cartridge, all there, without having to download, like, you know, the entire game. But let me know what you guys think about this down below after this Direct. Are you sold on this game now, and did it maybe meet your expectations going into it? Thanks, guys, for watching, and I'll see you next time.